news, instructions, advice on diabetes,
It's 10
hypertension,
o'clock.
strokes, menopause, AIDS, pregnancy, sex.
Sex? Did you say sex?
As prescribed, take your medication, exercise, and diet. On 88.5 Soufriere FM, tell a friend, call your neighbor. Casualty 911 is on.
Your favorite local station is online. Streams.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to a new edition of Casualty 911 on 88.5 Super FM. It is a pleasure to be here again with you this morning. I would like to say a wonderful welcome and good morning to all of you out there, those of you in Soufriere, Canary, Choiseul, and beyond, listening to 88.5 this morning. Soufriere is hot today with Carnival, although very quiet this morning, but I guess it will heat up later in the day. So I'm sure there will be many people out there participating and also just out there people watching Vesa Moon, enjoying the music, the ambience and everything that goes with having carnival, looking at the costumes and so on, seeing friends and probably relatives that you have not seen in a long time. I have not been here for a little while, so as I said, it's good to be back. Today we don't have a guest. It will be most likely a shortened program today because, we don't want to get in the way of the carnival too much. But I would like to share some information with the listening public, those of you who are probably getting ready to go out, or those of you who are looking forward to a nice relaxing day today. Some of you might be home at half day today and you're looking forward to spending some time at home or visiting friends and family. I hope you are tuned in. I appreciate it if you are tuned in and listening to the program this morning. So first up on the agenda today is blood donation. Can you believe that on a Carnival Monday such as today, that we would be speaking about blood donations? An urgent appeal was sent out from the Millennium Heights Medical Complex seeking donations of every blood type because the blood bank levels are quite low. Now, this is a topic that we have addressed several times on the program, and I hope that some of you, having listened and heard about it on the program, may have been encouraged to go out and donate blood. It is an issue that is a little bit problematic in that some people still tend to think that they would only donate, as we say, on demand or when a relative or friend is in need of blood. We never know when an issue will arise. We never know who will be in need of blood. And sometimes, as is the situation now when the blood levels are low, you never know if you or a family member or a friend may be in dire or desperate need of blood. And because the levels are so low, they may not have enough to go around to give everybody, or they may not have the specific blood type that is compatible that can be used for you or your family member or friend. So it is very important. We continue to stress that it is very important for there to be regular blood donations, to voluntarily go in and donate blood, whether you know of anybody who is in need of blood or not, because we cannot take out of the bank what's not in the bank. Blood cannot be manufactured to give to anybody. It has to be donated in order that it can be used for somebody else, and there is a little delay in how quickly it can be used. You cannot donate now and for the blood to be used. Today, it has to go through a process, and all of that takes a little time. So I'm urging everybody out there who is capable of donating, and you don't know if you may not know if you are able to donate unless you go. So for example, some people may say, you know, I don't have enough blood. How do you know? You will not go. You will not know until you go. At the blood bank, they will check to see whether you have a sufficient level which would allow you to safely donate blood. For those people who may have other issues, so for example, you may have high blood pressure or diabetes and think that you cannot donate, you may very well be able to donate. But I would encourage all of you to at least have a conversation. Take the first step. Go in. Make the effort. And as we keep saying, blood donations are needed for so many different people. You have people who are living with sickle cell. You have sickle cell anemia. You have people who are cancer patients. You have people who get into accidents. You may have people going in for what we call a regular little surgery, and they may end up bleeding and requiring blood. You may have people who are pregnant and going in to have a baby, and they start to hemorrhage and they need some blood. So all of those situations could arise, and they could arise with anybody. There may be accidents. We never know. We're out there every day. Some of us are driving and out on the road every day. You may get into an accident and need some blood. So sometimes people also, I've heard that comment being made that some people are reluctant to donate because they don't want their blood going to certain people. Now, we have no control over who the blood goes to. What we can do is to just donate out of the goodness of your heart. You want to help somebody. And as the slogan goes, you donate 1 pint and you can save 3 lives. So really and truly, you could be saving somebody's life. You could be helping to prolong somebody's life. You are actually helping a situation. So in spite of the fact that the appeal came from OKEU, the Millennium Heights Medical Complex, it is an issue that is affecting us island-wide. So at St. Jude Hospital also, I would encourage those of us in the southern parts of St. Lucia, you're in Micoud, you're in Vieux Fort, Labrie, Choiseul, Canneries, Soufriere. You can donate. You can donate at St. Jude Hospital at the lab. So at the Millennium Heights Medical Complex from Monday to Friday from 8:30 to 5:30 p.m. and on Saturdays 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. You can go in to donate blood at the donation center. At the St. Jude Hospital lab, I am not too sure about the hours, but I would think that anywhere between the hours of 9 to 3 p.m., you should be able to donate blood at St. Jude Hospital. You can call the lab at St. Jude Hospital lab at 459-6758. Now, there is a mobile blood bank attached to OKEU, to the Millennium Heights Medical Complex. Sometimes it's packed at various locations, and you just need to keep abreast of where they will be on particular days. They usually send out a schedule to let the public know where they will be packed and where you can go to donate blood in the mobile blood bank. For St. Jude Hospital, you donate at the lab, but you can also, if you have a group, you have a community business place where you have several people who are willing to donate, you can call them, have a conversation with them, and see whether you can negotiate to have them to come. Although their blood their bus is not operational at the moment, but you can have a conversation with them to see what can be done if you have a group you have a group of several people willing to donate. So I would encourage communities, business places, different organizations, whether faith-based organizations, community organizations, to try to rally your members and other members of the communities to donate. Try to make it an activity where you are doing something good. You know, sometimes at Christmas time, the various organizations, they come, they get donations, and they go around and they give hampers. Well, maybe you can get together, discuss how many of you would be willing to donate blood, and make that your do good, your good deed for the month of July. It's not ended yet, the month of August. So you can plan those things. And for those people who donate, remember that you can donate more than once for the year. You can donate 3 or 4 times for the year. For men, it's generally said 4 times for the year, and for ladies 3 times for the year. If you feel that you cannot do it 3 or 4 times and you can do it twice for the year, that was wonderful. Even 1 time. For those of you who are really reluctant, be a voluntary donor. Do it once a year. Do it twice a year. There are enough of us in St. Lucia who are eligible to donate blood, that our blood bank should not be making those appeals every so often. And it has been quite often of late, that they have been asking for blood donation. So it is a very serious issue. I want us to think about it as a serious issue. I want us to try to do something about it. Encourage somebody. If you think that you can't go alone, encourage a friend or a family member to accompany you. So you go as a pair, you go with company, you go with your moral support, and you try to get that done. I would really like to see less of those flyers going around asking for blood donations for people, because at the time that a family is dealing with the illness of a family member, it is an added stress to have that burden of getting people to come in to donate blood. I have been through it. I think there are several other people, considering the number of flyers that have been around over the years, there are several other people who have been through it. And if you have been through it, I think you should be, as a family member, you should really consider becoming a voluntary donor. Because we all know that it is, for those of us who have been through it, we know that it is not an easy situation to be in. You want to relieve people who are already suffering from that added burden of having to find blood wherever it is, to be encouraging people, to be begging people to come in to donate blood. Let us try to fill up our blood banks so that we don't have this recurring issue. It is something that I think we can avoid, and I really think we can do a lot better. We can do a lot better as it relates to blood donation. For those of you who still have many questions, who have questions about blood donation, you can always call the lab, ask a question. You can ask people who have been through blood donation. Go into the blood bank. If you have not decided that you want to donate and you're curious, you have questions, you're a little skeptical, have a conversation with the people working in the blood bank. So many of us walk past the blood bank on a daily basis when they're packed out there. Get some information, allay your fears so that you can make a decision. Let's not walk around with misinformation that prevents us from doing a good deed, which could be beneficial to us, to a family member, or to a friend. So that is just my appeal to everybody to try to go and donate blood. You don't have to be the healthiest person around to donate blood. If for any reason when you go through the, they will ask you some questions and so on. If for any reason you are unable to donate, then they can guide you as to what needs to be done so that you can possibly donate at a later date. So let us try to do that. We are in July. We know there are certain times of the year when the blood bank seems to have very high demand, but of late, apparently, the demand has been high for extended periods of time and probably not in the customary times of the year. So let us try to work on that situation. I am hoping that we will not see another urgent appeal for blood donations in a little while. At least let's go out there. Let us go out there. Let us go out there and make it our good deed. Make it your good deed for this year. So if you do it once, you may realize that it's not, as some people think, it's very scary. So it may not be as scary or as painful or as difficult as you might be thinking that it is. And by the end of the year, you could make another donation. So that is my little appeal to the public in terms of blood donation. Let us try to take it seriously. It is a very serious issue. Lives can be lost because of a lack of blood for the treatment of people who require it. So go out there and make a donation. Now, we'll be moving on to something else. I think maybe I started with something a little heavy this morning, but it's really something that kind of just gets to me every time I see all those flyers and the urgent appeals and so on. So if each of us make a donation, maybe once a year, maybe it could give the blood bank good reserves to be able to work with. Okay, so at the beginning of the program, I mentioned that it is Carnival Monday in Soufriere today. So I am expecting that those people who were out there yesterday will be out there today again, and maybe there will be others joining in today, Monday, to be part of the celebrations. So there are just a few little tips that I would like to share, in terms of being safe out there during Carnival. For those of you who were out there yesterday, I'm not sure how it went yesterday. I have not really heard or seen any reviews of the Carnival yesterday, but I hope that those of you who were out there at the Carnival yesterday really enjoyed yourself and that everybody was safe. So just a few tips to share in terms of safety. We know that Carnival is usually a time of excess of energy, excess drinking, and people just want to enjoy themselves. So in terms of consuming alcohol, that is an issue that can cause a lot of problems. Some people they drink too much, they get troublesome, they do a lot of things. So, that is one of the things. So really and truly, we should know ourselves. We should try to keep to our limits. I think all of us know when we start to feel a little tipsy. Those people who drink, you have an idea of when you've reached your limit, or when you are getting to your limit. Your limit is not when you pass out drunk on the side of the street. Your limit should be placed where you can still function well enough. Okay? You can still make fairly good decisions. You should not be throwing up or anything like that. That is not that at that point you are beyond your limit. You are completely beyond your limit. So pace yourselves, and one of the ways in which you can pace yourself when you are out there and drinking alcohol is to take your time to consume the drink. Some people, you see that people just turn, if they're drinking a beer, just turn it over. They have one in each hand and gulp down one and on to the next. So take your time to drink. I'm not saying let the cold beverages get hot in your hand, but pace yourself. Drink it slowly. Drink a little water in between. Before you head out there today, make sure you eat something. So pace yourself. Eat something, drink water, and take it easy. Take it easy. Nou pas sa fini warm. Warm guy toujours fini nou. So take your time. Don't try to, because the more you see, the more you want. Let's not be greedy. Let us drink. If you're drinking, you drink to a limit. So where you can still enjoy yourself. Not where you have no idea what you are doing. And you have people, these days, the in thing is to just take a video. So you have people taking videos of you doing endless magie with yourself. And if sometimes the magie was just talking nonsense, but we know that the magie can be really worse than that. And you want to try to avoid putting yourself in that type of situation. Who really wants to see themselves in some of the situations that people get themselves in when they have consumed too much alcohol? When you're so drunk, salsa cafe, try to ease up on the drinking. The other thing is, sometimes you're out there and it's very Lucian to do that. You offer somebody a drink. Be aware of who is offering you the drink and how the person is getting the drink, whether anything is being placed in the drink. Just be aware of your surroundings. Pay attention. I know very often somebody will offer to buy you a drink. They'll get you the drink and bring it back to you. So between where they got the drink and giving it to you, you don't know what has happened. Okay? So all of these things, be aware of who is giving it to you, where they're getting it from, whether anything is being placed in your drink, and so on. I know it's a chair for some people if they have to throw away a drink, but sometimes you have left the drink unattended for a period of time. You don't know who could have interfered with the drink. You don't know, maybe somebody might have thought it was their drink and drank from it. You don't know what mischief people could be up to and put something in your drink. So in that scenario there, it would really be best to throw away the drink. Sometimes if you are with a friend, you may ask a friend to hold on to your drink for you, but ensure that you trust that person and that person is actually going to hold on to the drink and ensure that it remains in the same condition that you gave it to them, so that you could use the bathroom and so on. So let us just be aware. Be aware. I see we have a couple of a question here that I don't know the answer to, but I'll ask it anyway. So if any of you have the answer to that question. Please feel free to share the answer. Did we have a Soufriere Calypso king and queen? I know there was a queen, carnival queen, but I'm not sure whether the question is asking about a Calypso queen. But there was a carnival queen. The competition took place. What date was it? I can't remember the exact date. Behind me, you can see one of the contestants. I don't think she was the winner. I believe the winner was from Font-Saint-Jacques. I believe. I don't remember too well. But if anybody knows the answer to that question, please feel free to share it with us. That question came from Sheldon Lionel, and he made a comment. I'm not sure what he's referring to. Double dose. So I'm not sure. Back to our carnival discussion, being aware and being safe. I encourage all of you who are out there, usually when you go to carnival, you go to those activities, you go with friends. It's very rare for people to go out there to carnival and so on their own, just on their own. They're not with a friend, they're not with anybody, they're not meeting up with anybody. So usually you go out with a friend. Check for each other. Check for each other, ensure that your friend is okay, that your friend is not drinking in excess, consuming too much alcohol. Ensure that your friend is okay. Don't leave them in a drunken state and go about your business and say, oh, that person is so troublesome. If the person is already drunk and that person is your friend, don't allow them to drive. Don't allow them to get on a motorcycle if you can, because I know that sometimes when the people have their rum and their alcohol in their head, you can talk to them. But if you can, I would strongly urge you to keep them away from driving or riding motorcycles. That is a disaster waiting to happen. Although I know some people believe that when they are drunk, they drive the best. They have the greatest driving skills come into play when they are drunk. But you really need to try to keep your friends safe. Help them to slow down. Use some of the tips that I mentioned earlier. When you see they are close to their limit or at their limit, start giving them some water, get something for them to eat, delay their departure from wherever they are so that they don't find themselves in a situation where they're driving drunk or riding drunk. I think that is it for the carnival. No, well, the other things that there are other little things that you may want to pay attention to. There are there's a lot of food being sold out when you have those types of activities. Ensure that you check out where the food is being prepared. Make an assessment of whether you want to buy from that person based on what you see, whether you see the person handling the money and the food with the same hand. So, for example, the person is kneading bakes, making bakes. They're taking the money with the same hand that was just in the flour. They sell to you, they put the hand back in the flour. Those sort of things. So just be aware of what is happening. There's a lot of barbecuing taking place. I've had a couple of bad experiences with, I like kidney. So the roast kidney, I've had a couple of bad experiences, that it's not cooked properly. So there are some eats that you really need to pay attention to, whether they are well done or not before you just pop in your mouth. Because you really want to avoid getting sick from consuming food that is not well prepared. or prepared in an environment that is not sanitary. So all of these are little tips that you can use to try to be safe during the carnival season, the carnival today. I'm sure it will be going on later in the evening. People might still be hanging around and having fun and so on. So try to be safe out there. For those of you, if it's very sunny, you may want to use a little sunscreen and so on. Take it because you were out there yesterday. I don't know if it rained yesterday, but all of those little things. For the people going out with young children, sometimes you take the children out to see carnival, to see what's happening. Make sure you keep an eye on them. Some of them, the very young ones, can disappear very, very quickly. To try to keep them out of harm's way so they're not in the way of moving vehicles. They're not lost in the crowd and you have no idea where they are. And sometimes when you're out in a group, you always think that somebody is watching and probably nobody is watching. So have a designated person responsible for those children that, if A, B, C, D, E, and F are out with 2 young children, A is responsible for number 1, C is responsible for number 2, and the others keep a lookout. Because sometimes we think that somebody is watching, that child is with somebody, and then the child is just on their own, and it may get into harm's way. So let us try to be safe out there, enjoy the carnival, enjoy the music, enjoy the vibe, and be safe out there. The next thing that I would like to mention is that on the 25th of July was actually World Drowning Prevention Day. Now, this is a relatively new observance. It was first observed in 2021. And I really wanted to get a guest in today to speak about water safety and swimming and drowning prevention. Unfortunately, the person I contacted was not able to make it this morning, but I think it is a topic that I would like to revisit on the show. I would like to have a guest in to speak about it because I think it's very relevant to us in St. Lucia. We live on an island. We're surrounded by water, and I don't have official statistics, but I believe that there are quite a number of us who are unable to swim or unable to keep ourselves afloat or treading water if we were to find ourselves in deep water. So we go to the beach. Those of us who can't swim, we would usually stay in the shallow area where our feet can touch. But what happens if you are out there you find yourself out there in deeper water? And what happens with our children? Children love water. They are attracted to water in all forms. So it's really important for children and adults to learn water safety. In the last 10 years, it has been said that approximately 3 million lives have been lost through drowning. Drowning is something that is preventable in a lot of cases, and it has to do with the level of preparation for being in water situations. So I just wanted to mention that in spite of not having been able to bring the guest in today, I really wanted to mention that because I want us to reflect I want us to think about the importance of water safety, of learning to swim, and so on. I would also encourage those people who are swim instructors, who teach water safety around the island to at least put together some kind of, or share your information, share your schedules, so that those people who are interested, whether for children or for adults, they know where to look. Because it almost seems as if you have to be asking everywhere, who does this, who does swimming there, there's any swimming happening in Soufriere, any swimming in Canneries, so long ago people used to just, I know in my time what used to be done, they used to take children out and just drop them in the sea, drop them out and let them fight. That's probably not the safest thing to do, but it helped a lot of people learn to swim. But I think there's a better way, and we can do better, and we should really work towards getting our people, our St. Lucians, to learn to swim, to learn to be safe in water, even though we don't become world-class athletes, but we need to at least be able to do the basic to keep us alive at all ages, young and old, children and adults. So that is something I want all of us to reflect upon. And those of you who work in the industry of water safety and swimming, make your information readily available to everybody, so that those people who are interested can access the service. I know that it would not be a free service, obviously, but there are several people out there who may be interested and they just don't have access to the information. So please try to make your information readily available. I think that is something that should be happening in every single district around St. Lucia, that you have people who provide water safety classes and swimming classes and so on in every single district. We cannot be living on an island with absolutely zero water safety skills. That is just not good enough. Not good enough at all. And as I said, I would like to revisit this topic when I actually have a guest in who can speak with knowledge and experience and in more depth about this issue of drowning prevention, water safety, and swimming. And Sheldon Lionel is sharing with us that one of the most interesting comments I get is, you come from an island with water all around and you can't swim. And yes, it puzzles a lot of people. And that is actually our situation in St. Lucia. That is actually our situation. There are so many people who cannot swim. And that should not be the case. We really need to work on that. We really, really need to work on that. We need to improve that situation at the soonest. So thank you for sharing that with us, Mr. Lionel. I appreciate it. So as I was saying, I would like to have a guest in and revisit this, so that the guest can speak in depth and to help us. And I hope that by the time that I'm able to get a guest in, whether the guest is with me or with Louisa, who also hosts the program, so whichever one of us, that when we have that guest in, that by that time maybe we would have a list of swim instructors, water safety instructors, or so on, that we can share with the public. I would really like to see that happen. So moving on, I'm just going to touch briefly on another little issue, and then we're going to call it a wrap for today. Uh, and one of the reasons why that water safety issue really struck me, that drowning prevention really struck me, is that we are all children, most children are on vacation right now. They have long vacation, and generally, usually, when we take children out, we usually take them to the beach. And if they can't swim and we can't swim, we're at the beach and we get into a sticky situation. How many of the other people on the beach would be in a position to assist us if we cannot help ourselves? So that is one of the reasons why it really struck me today that we should probably really look into that. So for those of us actually, because I love the beach, but I can't swim. For those of us who will be out at the various beaches around St. Lucia, I am urging all of us to be on our guard, to try to be as safe as possible. Sometimes we go out and we have those get-togethers on the beach. Sometimes alcohol is being consumed. Si ou ha sa vou pa fo, pa bwe ek pou ay fote ko an lanme, ek pou ped la vi ou. When we drink, sometimes we think we're invincible and we think we can do all things. But that is not necessarily the case. So let us try to be safe out there, keep to our limits, and make an effort to learn. I did try, but unfortunately, I had to give up the classes that I had started because it's something that weighs on my mind all the time. And even more so now that I have a child, I really do appreciate that it is important, and I would like to change my situation, make it different for him. And I think it's important for all of us to at least have the basic survival skills in deep water. So, leaving that alone, let us move on to the fact that yes, the children are out, and guess what? A lot of them may be outside, running around and playing in groups, playing outside, but a lot of them would be inside on their tablets, using phones to entertain themselves. And we need to pay attention to what they are watching on those devices, whether it is affecting their behavior. Let us try to pay attention to that, how long they're spending on the devices, whether they are taking breaks. It's important for them to take breaks every now and then, look up from the screen, move away from the screen, look at a distance, take a little break. Don't be on the tablet or the phone for extended periods of time. For some people, they have it down very well. They have all their parental controls. They have time limits. They have automatic shutdown and all of those things. But for those who don't, let's just try to be a little bit more aware, pay attention, and watch what's happening. We don't want them to be so engrossed every single day. There are days when, yes, maybe they have a little extra time, but let us try to get them involved in other things as well, where they don't even probably think about using the tablet or the phone. So to be entertained doing other things or chores around the house. I remember growing up, we had chores to do. A vacation time, people would be working depending on the age. So let us try to get the children involved in other things. If there are summer camps activities happening in the various communities that you think your children might enjoy, go out, let them participate, be a part of it. And I would encourage all parents before school reopens, if the children have not had their vision tested, to try to get their vision screened, because we know that if we don't screen, if there are any issues, particularly with all the use of the devices and so on, there might be a bit of eye strain. There may be, that is related to the use of the devices, but we need to know whether there is an issue. You need to know whether there is an issue so that you can deal with it in a timely fashion, because it can really affect how the children function in the school environment, whether they can see what is written on the board. If they're having difficulty seeing, they may take some more time in copying the notes. If there are notes being given, they may not be able to answer questions that are being asked of them. Sometimes they may feel embarrassed and so on. So get them screened, get their vision tested before they head back to school in September. That is something that we should try to do. And you will be guided, obviously, when you go in for the vision screening, you will be guided by whatever the doctor tells you in terms of when you should return, how often, and what steps should be taken if they notice any issues related to the vision. Today, the 28th, is World Hepatitis Day. And there are several types of hepatitis. I'm just putting this out there because it's the day, and in observance of World Hepatitis Day, just to remind us that hepatitis is an issue that affects very many people around the world. There are vaccines for some of them. You can always check with your community wellness centers. Speak to your nurses, speak to your private doctors about hepatitis, about the vaccines. There are some common symptoms that tend to be symptoms that you'd get with other conditions as well. The usual fever, nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain. Sometimes the symptoms do not show up until you have been infected for a very long time. So have a discussion with your community health nurse or your health provider, your doctor, private doctor, however it is. Read up a little bit on hepatitis if you think you have any risk of exposure or so on, that you can take the necessary steps. And finally, I did say it would be a shortened version today. I think we are pretty close to the end, but it is a shortened version today. Finally, next week on this program, we will be talking about breastfeeding. It will be Breastfeeding Awareness Week, and we will have a guest joining us to speak about breastfeeding. I encourage all of you, those of you who have had good experiences with breastfeeding, feel free to contribute to the program, make comments, call in. Those of you who had difficulty with breastfeeding, feel free to do the same. You know, we really want to hear what are some of the challenges that people encounter, whether they were able to resolve the issue, how they dealt with the situation. And for those of you who had a wonderful experience, we would also like to hear your views and to hear you share your experiences with there are people who are having children for the first time every day. And there are people who may be experiencing challenges and they need that little support, that little encouragement. There are people who having challenges may not know what their options are. Okay. And we will be discussing breastfeeding, nutrition, the benefits, the challenges, the support, and so on next week on the program. Same time, same place on 88.5 Soufriere FM at 10 a.m. And our guest will be joining us. I hope we'll not have any disappointments next week in terms of the availability of the guest, but I don't think so. I think she will be here, and we will be able to have that discussion next week. So thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for tuning in to 88.5 Soufriere FM to Casualty 911. And remember that urgent appeal for blood donations at the Blood Donation Center at OKEU. And also, please make an effort for those of us down in the southern areas to donate blood at St. Jude Hospital Lab. And also to be safe out there on Carnival Monday in Soufriere. Be safe. Everybody, enjoy yourselves. Have a wonderful time and be safe. Thank you again for tuning in. This will be it until we meet again next week.